When I was working in the Reagan administration, we were faced with the problem of lead in gasoline, which found its way into emissions into the air. But we knew that the health effects of lead in the atmosphere were very, very serious. And we had very good data, and actually heartbreaking data, on the effects of lead, especially on cognitive development in young children and so forth. We regarded it as quite an urgent matter. So we had a lead Phasedown program. It was a complicated matter because if you put lead in gasoline, you didn't have to refine it as much. So it was a very cheap way to have good octane that made gasoline work well. Rather than trying to regulate what everybody was doing, we simply said one cannot put any lead in one's gasoline without a permit. And we're only issuing a certain number of permits. Everybody got permits, but the people with a lot of refining capacity would simply sell more permits to the people with less refining capacity. Why did that make sense? Because some petroleum companies had a lot of refining capacity. They had these big plants where they could refine and get the gasoline at a very high octane. Other firms did not. Other petroleum firms did not. They just put a lot of lead in the gasoline. So if we had just issued this rule for the whole country, we would have been moving a lot of crude oil, a lot of unrefined petroleum product in big tankers, because the people that didn't have refining capacity would be shipping it to the people that had a lot of refining capacity. And that would have been more pollution. I mean, we'd have more trucks on the highway, more activity. We looked at this later on, and it produced a dramatic improvement in the trajectory over time. We got the lead out of gasoline much faster than we would have otherwise, because it was fairly simple. It was, compared to most environmental programs, it was a very efficient one, because we were using market incentives. As sometimes people say, one size fits all, command and control regulation, more subtle approaches that actually harness personal and economic incentives for innovation and finding lower cost ways of reducing pollution are much more effective.